Let's look at matters now that impact FX inflows into Nigeria. We see the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Company Limited, NNPCL, announced that it has launched a new crude oil grade, Dangote, into the international market. Well, Dangote's current crude oil production is at 28,000 barrels per day, with potential to increase to about 50,000 barrels per day. Well, joining us to discuss this and other matters, we have Mr. Kalu Aja, as a financial analyst, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Hey, Larry, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing good. It's still afternoon here, but I know right there it's the wee hours. Thank you for waking up so early to do this with me. But let's start with the protests now. Estimated losses for the economy at about $1.4 billion. And I'm wondering, does the cost, is it outweighing the benefits, or is the expected benefit outweighing the cost? How are you seeing this?
Interesting question, Larry. I think the real cost of the protest is that the investors are not sure what's going to happen tomorrow with the policies, the bold policy that President Tinubu had started off with. I think that came out in pictures. So the fuel subsidies looks like it's back. Even the float naira, they're asking for it to come back to a fixed peg. That's the real cost, not the naira dollar cost that the economist, Mr. Rwanda, has talked about, but the fact that these policies could be unwound, that would go back to a welfare state, that the broad capitalist reforms that we're driving towards are going to be paused to assuage the concerns of the folks that are out on the streets. If that happens, then of course that means that most of these FDIs that we're expecting, these plans that have been put on paper, might not come to pass, that we're going to focus more on human development indexes, to spending money to make the youths and those that are quote unquote hungry happy, and not investing in long-term infrastructure. So that, I think, is the cost that we cannot phantom or quantify at the moment, but it's the real cost of what we're seeing happen in the street right now.
Right, and I keep asking this question. We've talked about multidimensional poverty, seeing the level in Nigeria. So do you think countries with such high poverty rate should actually indulge in protests?
I mean, it's everywhere. There are protests everywhere in the US, the UK. Everyone protests once the economy pinches, right? I think it's maybe the way we've done it. This protest per se that you see happening in Nigeria, it's not that widespread across Nigeria. It's not like the SAP riots. It's not been that lots of people out on the street. But it's been, it's taking into account the way the government went about to try to stop it, and it still happened. That's really the what I took away from it, that people still came out to say they are hungry. Even when the government has spoken to them through many ways to get people not to come on the street, it still happened. So, I mean, even in the US, the Communist Party of America protested in Philadelphia. I think that was last week. Big protest, well organized, they were all dressed in red. And they were protesting the same thing, they want to get stuff done. So we're in that time. Let's put it that way.
Now, I guess we're tagging 2024, the year of protests at this point, and I'm wondering what this will mean, for the global economy, because we're seeing protests almost in a lot of countries at this point. What do you think this is telling us about 2025?
Larry, the biggest protests in the world right now have been on the polling booths. Look at what happened in Italy, Austria, Switzerland, France. Those have been protests at the ballot boxes, where you've seen the quote-unquote parties that would not have won elections in the past now winning elections, right? So you've seen the far left winning majority seats in European Parliament and even in the French lower house. So those have been protests that have not been on the street, but have been very, very loud. Look at Germany, Europe's largest economy, how the ruling party is losing seats. So there's been protests going on. I think the status quo is in trouble. In Europe, only Italy was status quo that had remained in place, right? Look at Brazil, India, Bangladesh. Protests are happening. It might not be folks going out to the street, but they are voting. They are saying there's something going on with the world economy we don't like. Either we're getting poorer or the world's getting more expensive. but we don't like what we're seeing, want to try somebody else. That's what you're seeing happen in the world. If you move to 2025, of course, the big thing is going to be the American elections. Whoever wins that election sort of sets the tempo for how the world would operate. If the Democrats win, then we continue the Obama-led economy of, we're going to go green. There's a lot less fossil fuels, lots of cooperation around the world. If Trump wins, then we're going to go back to the more fossil fuels, very protectionist trade barriers and all that kind of stuff. So the U.S. election is going to be the real key pivot. Once Trump wins, it will cascade across Europe in more right-wing, more right-of-center parties winning. So that's what you're going to see. That's the main thing. And it's just in November, on less than 100 days away for that decision.
Right, and it's quite interesting. We did hear Trump, talk about the meltdown we saw in most markets, and I think he tagged it the Kamala drop or something like that. He's already saying that we're seeing that drop because of Kamala. Quite interesting. But let's look at the issues here. Now we're seeing the NNPCL trying to get more ramp up production of oil this time with this Tapate grade. So it's a new well, and definitely we're seeing it with the potential of about 50,000 barrels per day. So what do you make of this? And now we're having this export to Spain already. So do you think going forward we're going to get more production of oil?
I mean, the question has always been, where will supply come from for Dangote? There is no supply. That's the honest truth. First of all, this location of Dangote is away from the oil-producing areas. That's number one. Even if it was in the oil-producing areas, there's just no supply. We're at 1.6 million barrels per day, according to Mr. President. Even if we were at 2 million barrels per day, can we supply NNPC, supply the IOCs, and also supply Dangote at 450,000 barrels per day? It's going to be a hard stretch. I think we need to produce more so that he's able to get local crude oil to then refine and to make those petrochemicals, unless he's going to do the Indian model of importing the crude and then refining and then making a margin on that trade. But the point, lad, is that Dangote is now a strategic, too big to fail enterprise in Nigeria. So whatever the disagreement, whatever the issues, he cannot fail. That's a 15 billion investment that would drive and change the entire economy of Nigeria. So it should be priority number one. I'm not saying we take away the oil from the IOCs, but it should be priority number one to get crude to him, even before the NNPC. It's a newer plant, so he can do more per crude oil barrel than the older NNPC refineries. So if you give a barrel to Dangote, you will get more money than if you give a barrel to NNPC. So we should think that way. If possible, take the entire NNPC stock, close down those old refineries, and just focus on Dangote refineries. Let's leave the talk about monopoly for now. It's too big to fail. It's already built. Let's get it working. Nigeria will benefit from it.
Right. And talking about, the refinery, we see the market route hit the oil market too. And I'm wondering if the $70 level will hold for Brent and WTI. We know, prices coming down, that's a negative for revenue, for the government. But I think that's good for, the Dangote refinery because they do import US WTI.
I mean, it's coming down. It's been on a downtrend. If not for the Russians and the Saudi pact to keep supply lower, oil would have crashed a bit long time and gone to levels below what we have right now. So it's being kept up by supply cuts. Now, with the recession fears coming into America, oil prices should go lower. What might keep it up is the tensions in the Middle East with the Iranians and the Israelis. Something might blow up where I say, okay, maybe Saudi gets involved and all that kind of stuff. But the trajectory for crude oil is going to be softer. That's where we are right now. So we have to keep that in mind that demand is already low. OPEC had to cut to keep prices this high. And now with the US recession coming up, as projected, oil consumption is going to fall even lower. So that's a key red flag for Nigerian budgets going forward.
And what do you think the Nigerian government should do with this information, at this time, knowing that we should, get some feedstock to our local refineries, but at the same time, we're seeing oil prices trending downward?
I think we just have to get more austerity focus, right? We can't really spend. The revenues are going to reduce. We can only tax so much. Again, with the protests you're seeing going on, most of the tax increase are going to be sort of calmed down and say, okay, let's maybe start it next year. So the point is the government has got to start to look at austerity measures. Where can we cut spending? Because spending is so income is going to basically falter in the next, say, 90 to maybe a year's time. So we have to start to cut down on the spending and focus on only those productive sectors, health, human services sectors that are going to create revenues. The stuff that are good to have, but not necessary, start to cut them out. Start to get the budget ready and the economy ready for an austerity. If it doesn't come, that's fine. But if it does come, you've got to be ready for it. You can't tax your way out into prosperity. We've got to get FDIs, we've got to get remittances. The economy has got to grow first before we then tax. And since oil generates that revenue to make the economy grow, we've got to say, listen, it is not going to happen as we've planned. Let's cut down the spending today.
Yeah, well said. Let the economy grow before you tax it. Thank you so much. Always great having your perspective, Kalu Aja. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady. Have a good one.
You too. All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we're going to head straight to the markets. Let's see how the markets are looking. Is it looking any better at this point? We'll find out. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.